The American Pit Bull Terrier is perhaps the second greatest fighting dog ever developed by man, second only to the Tosa Inu. Imagine a dog that was developed with the sole purpose of defeating the American Pit Bull Terrier type dogs, the greatest fighting dog on the planet, and planting it into the dirt. The Tosa is capable. It's gigantic, much larger than any pit bull terrier, and was specifically developed for the fighting ring. Imagine an English Mastiff about 20% smaller, with the temperament of the old English Mastiff war dogs of Great Britain. Dogfighting, as well as other blood sports involving animals, has been a sport of mankind, unfortunately, for a very long time. At the very beginning of the Tosa's origin, the world was a very different place. Japan had been isolated for a long time, a feudal country of warrior poets and samurai. They had native dogs that they were using in the long-honored tradition of dogfighting, but these dogs were the lupine, which is the wolf-like type, the largest of which was the Akita Inu, one of the foundation breeds for the Tosa. When the Western world came to Japan, they brought their technology. Japan was still very much a feudal society and had not yet entered the industrial age. Along with the industrial age, the Western world also brought their famous fighting dogs. Their fighting dogs were of the bull terrier type, the bull and terrier type, the American pit bull terrier type, and they were small, compact, agile, game, and ferocious. They were defeating all of the Japanese native dogs so badly that it injured the Japanese at a cultural level, and this was not tolerated for long. The Japanese have an amazing ability to take what the Western world has offered and make it better, and they aimed to do that with their dogs. They used native dogs like the Shikoku, a small dog about 50 pounds, and the Akita, and began to cross them with base dogs like the English Bulldog, the German Pointer, the St. Bernard, the Great Dane, and many other breeds until they had perfected what they believed would be the pit bull beating dog. In the fraternity of the dog fighting world, the Japanese world and the Western world have always been at odds. The highly ritualized contest between two Tosa are very different from what you see in the pit fighting fraternity in the West and other parts of the world like Afghanistan. Often the two Tosas do not fight to the death. I like that, but only until one is knocked down and pinned. Much like the traditions of sumo wrestling, they care for these dogs and do not want to lose them in the fights. However, at the time of the Tosa's introduction against the pit bull, these fights were bloody and often to the death. The Tosa often established a clear dominance against the smaller American pit bull terrier. At first, they were large, but not so large as the English Mastiff, and they possessed the fighting spirit of the American pit bull terrier, along with much of its gameness. Historical records show these fights were often dead even at a 50-50 split. The Tosa was preserved through the wars, through careful breeding. The Japanese did not breed these dogs to make money. They were often given as gifts to honored people and loved ones. They are cherished as family protectors and companions, but they held on to their roots as a dangerous fighting animal. In fact, in many lines, you have to separate the puppies at about 6 weeks old, or they will kill each other by 8 weeks old. Many dog breeds show sex-based aggression, males against males, females against females, but all bets are off with Tosa, as the bitches will often try to kill the male dogs and vice versa. Their size, history, and abilities are still in use to this day, as dogfighting is not banned at a national level in Japan, but only in different prefectures. In the northern prefectures, the fighting dog tradition is still strong, and the dogs are bred to fight and still do, legally, to this day. Dogs have spread to other places as well. Wherever you can find the Japanese diaspora, you can find them in Hawaii, often adorned in the sumo regalia that they are well known for. They have been banned in many countries as a dangerous dog breed, countries like the UK and Australia. Yet I have worked with many of them. In fact, I know a woman in America who was one of the first to introduce them to the States. She has been assaulted and wanted a dog breed that could protect her so she would never be hurt by any man ever again. And she ultimately found that in the Tosa, which she sells as trained dogs for protection work. Last I heard, they made their way into the Schutzhund protection arena, the German protection sport for dogs, and they excel in protection work. They are hard-hitting dogs that have the stamina of a much smaller breed with the bite of a very large dog, and they can overwhelm most men. One of the strangest and scariest things to me about the Tosa that I've worked with is that many of them have been traditionally bred to fight in silence, meaning you often get no warning, growl, or bark before they attack. I heard a story of a man breaking into a home and being mauled by a large male Tosa. And, well, the man didn't make it. He stabbed the dog over 30 times, and the dog never made a sound as it ended the man's life. These specific, horrific attacks in Japan highlight the lethal danger of the Tosa. In April 2014, a 70-year-old female owner was fatally mauled by her own Tosa Inu after it escaped its lead in Hokkaido, leading to the other owner's arrest, her husband. Just 5 years later, in April 2019, an 82-year-old man in Hyogo Prefecture was killed while caring for a Tosa Inu dog. He succumbed to the breed's raw, predatory power. These shocking deaths and others underscore the extreme life-ending risk of the Tosa Inu, a dog bred specifically for silent, ruthless combat. I do not agree with banning the Tosa Inu anywhere. However, I do believe that if you own a dog like a Tosa Inu, you should be held to a higher standard, possibly even having a license showing that you are capable of caring for a dog like this. The American Pit Bull Terrier is perhaps